Good morning, everybody. Today I'm seeding some more tomatoes. Just a small seeding. I have 5 flats laid out on the table here. I don't know if you can see those in the background very well. I'll give you a closer look in a little bit. But they're over 2 feet tall. I just got back from an RV trip with my wife down in South Carolina at Huntington Beach State Park. And these things must have grown 6 inches while I was gone for the 5 days. Anyway, I'm back. I'm a few days behind on getting this 3rd seeding done. We're gonna get these seeded, and then we're gonna be working in the greenhouse number 1, the tall house, because these things are busting at the seams and ready to be transplanted. I'm gonna finish getting some things tidied up in that greenhouse, and I think today's Saturday. I'm not gonna plant them on Sunday, but maybe Monday or Tuesday, we're gonna move them all over there and get them transplanted. We plant tomatoes 6 times on our farm, and 5 of them are greenhouse tomato plantings. So today we're planting 3 varieties, all DeRuyter seeds. These are all indeterminates, and they are bred for greenhouse growing. And probably majority of them are grown hydroponically. At least that's what we're doing on our farm. We have grown in the soil, by the way. It's been over 20 years, but I do have experience growing greenhouse tomatoes in the soil, and we also had a high tunnel, a half-acre high tunnel from 2009 to 2017, where we grew determinate field tomatoes inside the tunnel. I never had a lot of success. A lot of it was probably nutritional related. Didn't have that dialed in at the time. It's an exact science and recipe fed to hydroponic tomatoes, so much easier to control everything, and I get far better yields, and that's why we went to hydroponic tomatoes. We're planting Geronimo, Torero, and Ondero today. So all I'm doing is dropping these seeds into these holes. I have another video showing this already. I will link that in the description below if you're interested in seeing that. And if I happen to drop more than 1 seed, I'll just pick it out with my label and move it over to the other hole. Some of you may be thinking, why don't I have a machine to do this, or have my kids out here helping? Yeah, normally my kids help if I have maybe a dozen or 15 flats, or when we're seeding all of our field crops in these flats over here filled with germination mix. That's where mini hands come in handy. But today, as you can see, I'm only planting 5 flats. It'll take me 20 minutes, and I'll have them done. You can see how tall these things are. They're up to the top of the bamboo stakes. These are 2-foot bamboo stakes. This time of year, they tend to stretch just a little bit more, you know, from the shorter days and lack of light. I would prefer these things to be about 6 inches shorter, but you know, there's nothing I can do about it now. That is planting number 1. This is planting number 2. You can see they're only about 6 inches tall. And then this will be planting number 3 over here. This is our first planting of grape tomatoes. They're looking real nice. We'll plant those in the middle of the week, next week as well. If you look real closely, you can see that these tomatoes actually have formed their tomato cluster. Probably just a week away from opening up and being beautiful yellow blossoms. If you are new to my channel, my name is Jason. I'm a 4th generation farmer here at Wishwell Farms. We started out as a dairy farm 4 generations ago with my great-grandfather, and I milked cows my entire life until I was like 28. That's what I went to college for, was animal sciences at Ohio State University. We sold the cows in 2001 because the vegetable side of things was kind of taken off that I had started, and that's when I went full-time with the vegetables. And I currently raise about 65 acres. At one time we were up to 80, but we currently have about 65 acres of vegetables. Don't really grow any fruits anymore. We used to grow strawberries. For almost 20 years we grew strawberries. I guess the only fruit we grow would be cantaloupe and watermelon. Everything else I would consider a vegetable, I guess. We have 5 greenhouses. This is the smallest greenhouse. It's a 30 by 60. It's our starter house, our seed house. And then we have 4 other greenhouses that we grow hydroponic tomatoes in, totaling about 14,000 square feet. So that's just a quick little background on what I do and what this channel is going to be about. we're also going to show more than the greenhouse farming and the vegetable farming. We're also going to show some of our 1,200 acre grain operation that my dad and my younger brother mainly run. I help out when I'm able, but the vegetable side of things keeps me pretty busy. So I plan on doing a full farm history video here in the near future, and if you're watching this after the fact, it will be down in the description box below if you're interested in learning more about our farm history. Definitely be on the lookout for that. I'm looking forward to putting that video together. So this planting number 3 will go in our long greenhouse, greenhouse number 2. It's a 30 by 148, and I have found over the years that when we plant them all together, they all come on together, and we'll get a huge flush of tomatoes, probably right around Memorial Day or first week of June, and it's almost too many because I'm already picking in greenhouse 1, and then when they're still cranking them out, and then greenhouse 2 kicks in. I really just need about half of that greenhouse, or maybe 2/3 of that greenhouse, to be coming on for the Labor Day, or not Labor Day, I don't know if I said Labor Day earlier. I meant Memorial Day weekend, the weekend prior to Memorial Day. That is our kind of our big kickoff for the season. So I figured out a couple years ago that if I divide that planting into 2 plantings, I won't get such a huge flush of tomatoes all at once. Yes, sometimes I need those, especially when we get in the strawberry season or sweet corn season in mid-July. But by then, some of our greenhouses are kind of tapering off a little bit, and then that's when my 3rd greenhouse kicks in. So it's better for us to divide those 1,000 plants into 2 plantings, and it just spreads out the yield a little bit for us, so they don't all come on at once. When I get all these seeds planted, I will take them down in my basement, cover them with vermiculite, and then cover them with a sheet of plastic, turn the heat pads on, the germinating pads, give them about 3 days at 82 degrees, and most of these puppies should pop right up. And then we'll bring them back out here so they have natural light. And there's really no reason to leave them in my basement, because then you're burning a lot of electricity for no reason when I got free sunlight out here. All right, I'm out in my tall greenhouse, greenhouse number 1, trying to get everything fixed, put back together in here so we can transplant here in about 2 or 3 days. So here's what all I got going on. I just put back together all my pipes where I drain the water down there. And I just see that I missed one right here. I'll get that put back together. I got the hot water heater filled and heating. Had a leaky pipe right here. This fitting was stripped out when I tried to tighten it back up, so I'm gonna have to cut it off here and replace those 2 parts. The flow meter that goes right here that helps me know how many gallons per minute to set this at gets all rusty and dirty, and I can't see the measurements on it, so it's soaking in oxidate right now. Got the cold water and the hot water put back together here. Got the drain plug on the boiler put back in there, another one here, and this is the fill pipe for fresh water into the boiler, so that's all put back on and ready to go. And gas is on. I can't test the boiler until I get it full of water, and I can't fill it with water until I turn the hydrant back on, but the hot water heater has to be fixed first, so we'll have that done here in a second. I'm currently charging these 2 marine batteries. If you're wondering why I have marine batteries in here, it's because there's electric backup motors on these blowers here. So if I lose power, these will drop because there's no more air going into them. And if it's cold and windy outside, my plants would get shredded in a matter of minutes. So if there's a power failure while I'm waiting to get my generator up and running, these electrical backup fans run on batteries. So I'll have a battery sitting right there, and I'll put these little clips on the battery. These will spin and blow enough air into those to keep that inflated. There's one on each side. This is the most critical one because this is the west facing side. We get really strong winds out of the west here, so it is critical that this never goes down when I don't want it to go down. yeah, it would be catastrophic. And we have had straight line winds out here so powerful before. Back in 2002, greenhouse number 2, my long one that's kind of a Quonset shape that is 30 by 148, it got flipped upside down, opened up like a can of worms, and I lost everything within minutes. Now, part of that was due to my ignorance in building greenhouses. At the time, I wasn't aware that you were supposed to concrete every post into the ground. So those greenhouse anchor posts that hold the hoops were just pushed into the dirt. So it didn't take a lot to create like a airplane lift effect with the straight line winds going over that greenhouse to just lift it up out of the ground. I learned my lesson the hard way, but now I concrete, not every post, but I concrete every other one, all the way around all my greenhouses. So hopefully that'll never happen again. I have lost plastic before, so I don't think the greenhouses will ever get lifted up and tore up unless there's an actual tornado that goes through here. But you know, the plastic would obviously get shredded off much quicker than the greenhouse frame getting pulled out of the ground. I just tested the fan jet a little bit ago. The convection tube that distributes all of the heat and fresh air throughout the greenhouse. And I just tested both heaters. They both fired right up and blew heat into the convection tube. So yeah, we're getting real close to getting everything finished up in here. Just a lot of little things I gotta tidy up. I think in an hour or two I'll have it all ready to go. So that feels good. I'm glad everything works. I'm gonna get back to it. Get this greenhouse fired up by tomorrow. All right, the boiler is working. Thank goodness. I just know it's a matter of time before this boiler goes out. Bottom heat, let's turn it on. There she goes, she just lit. Boiler pump is working, it's not leaking. It's circulating the water through the system. Speaking of our radiant floor heat, I want to show you how I have it set up in here. It's a little different than a typical hydroponic greenhouse that may have a concrete floor and the heating tubes, the water tubes are below the concrete surface. But since I have a gravel floor, I did it a little bit differently. I put blue board insulation down on top of the gravel, and you can see these are the water tubes that carry the warm water through the greenhouse to warm up the floor, at the root zone of the Bato buckets. So I got a sheet of blue board down below, and then I made like a channel. I just cut strips to put the leachate or drain tube up on top, and the bucket sets on that, and then this next strip. So the tubes are concentrated all together, all 6 of them, in this little channel of insulated blue board. Now, I bought this greenhouse used back in 2005, I believe, and he had his buried in the gravel, and I think they were spaced every 8 inches throughout the entire 30 feet of the greenhouse to evenly heat the floor. But I didn't want to do it that way, so I came up with this system, and it's worked really, really well for me. Not saying it's the best way to do it, but it works for me. So what I'm working on right now is, since this blue board insulation has been in here since 2005, these are the little strips that go under the bucket to prop the back of the bucket up. You can see they've come unglued. I have them all glued on, but over the years they've come unglued, and then when we drag our plants out the back door at the end of the season, these chunks get drug off with the plants. So we pick them all up and just place them back under there. And it's not like it has to be done in the whole greenhouse. It's just the back. It's usually just the back 15 or 20 buckets on each side. So yeah, that's all there is to it. All right, I have everything put back together here. I can actually read the flow meter, just barely. Disc fillers are in place. I just flushed out the main lines. I had these disconnected, and I flushed out a bunch of goop, and then reconnected them, removed the caps at the other end so it's not pressurized, and I flushed out those lines. They were pretty nasty, but they look really good and clean now. So all the lines have been reattached. So now I'm ready to pressurize the system again. I put the caps back on at the end. Have a half tank full of warm water with Oxidate 2.0. I have found over the years that the Oxidate does a great job of breaking up mineral deposits, fertilizer deposits that are left over in the drip lines in the drippers. So what I'm going to do is turn on the irrigation pump, pressurize the system, and most of the drippers will work. 2/3 maybe, that's my guess. And then I'm going to let it run and push that oxidate, that warm water and oxidate into all the drippers for maybe a minute or two, and then I'm going to let it set overnight. And then I'll come back out here tomorrow and do another flush. And then most of the drippers, I'm hoping at least 90% of the drippers, the drip emitters, I guess is what they're really called. These little red things here, these are like a little woodpecker dripper. They're a pressure compensated dripper, a ½ gallon per hour. And if I don't run the oxidate through there, I've had to replace over half, if not 2/3 of the entire 615 in this greenhouse. And it goes the same for the other greenhouse, 1,000 over there, 500 down there, and another 400 on the grapes. So it's important to flush all these out at the end of the season. I put oxidate in them at the end of the season, and then in the spring when I'm ready to fire everything back up, I'll pressurize it again and flush them all out with oxidate. And usually it does a pretty good job of eliminating all the junk in there that could potentially plug those up. So here we go, let's fire it up. So this is my pump switch here. This is the billow pumps. We're not doing anything with those right now. Greenhouse 1, Greenhouse 2, Greenhouse 3, Greenhouse 4. So we're going to turn on Greenhouse 1, which is this solenoid valve here. And now we're going to turn on the pump. You can see it's drawing the water down. Pump is drawing it out, up through this disc filter, and then out into irrigation 1. And I can see some of them dripping already. That's what we want right there. A nice steady stream or a super fast drip. So that one might not quite be good enough. Sometimes I give them a little tap, they got some junk on them. They'll start flowing a little bit better. Yeah, that was probably a bad one. Or, after I let it set tonight, maybe tomorrow, it will work. So I'll go through here and check every single one of these drippers while the pump's running, and I'll see how many of them are flowing properly. That one's too slow. That one's good. So if they're good, I will just leave them go. And if it's bad, I pop it off. And then I know if it's the dripper, the drip emitter. See, that drip emitter is good. See it squirting water out when I push my finger on it? That one's good. So the problem was there. See all those old roots? So I'll have to pull that apart, tap on it, blow on it, and then put it back on there onto the drip emitter, and it should be fine. So I'll go down through here, leave the good ones on one side that are running, and then I'll flip the bad ones to the other side or pop them off, and I'll just check one row at a time. You can see over here, a lot of them are working. See all the wet spots down on the gravel? And that's what I like to see. A whole bunch of drippers working. We've just about drawn all of the warm oxidate water out of the tank. And these little pressure switches, when they stop feeling the pressure of the water on them, it'll shut the pump down. That way you don't burn the pump up without water in it. And when the water fills up and covers this pressure switch, it turns off the source water from coming in. No source water is coming in right now because I have it shut off. So I'll turn it back on. coming back in, and it goes through a disc filter as well. Next on the list, I'm working on the billow pumps. So I've taken them all apart. We got all the suction hoses and the emitter hoses off, and they have these little bobbit valves. It's like a one-way valve, and there's one on the entrance side of the billow pumps and one on the exit side. And I still got to take the ones out at the top here, the exit side. I just like to take all these out and soak them in oxidate. You can see how much crud is on that one. Because if there's one little particle in there preventing it from working properly, you'll stop getting the right suction up here. We need all three of these tanks to work together, kind of in unison, put it in the right recipe into my mixing tank before it gets pumped out and distributed to all the plants. There's often a lot of junk in all these hoses too, so I'll take them out to my water spigot and force water through them and blow air through them. Usually after doing that, they're pretty clean, and then I'll reattach everything and get the fertilizer and acid mixed up, and we'll be ready for plants. So let's see, tomorrow is Sunday. I'm not sure how much work I'll do in here on Sunday, but I may come out here and finish up checking all these drippers, because my plants need to be out here. It's March 2nd. It's time. I'm probably almost a week behind schedule now. So the quicker I can get them out here, the quicker I can start getting them fed what they need so they can take off and hopefully give us ripe tomatoes in early May. That's my hope. All right, that is it for today, folks. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And in the next video, we're going to be bringing plants out here and transplanting. We'll see you then.